You're listening to episode 820 of the Father Bills Podcast. Welcome back. This week's episode is entitled A Troubled but Holy Family, given on the Solemnity of the Holy Family of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, 2021. This week we are given time to look at the family of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. Their lives can encourage us to be loving and forgiving at every opportunity. Yet this is very hard to do, right? Think about it. Every family struggles with this. A visit to one of our family members in the last 48 hours may have reminded us of that very fact. It can be a time for joy, but it also can be a time for anger and anxiety. We might expect the church to pull out a story when Jesus, Mary, and Joseph had been praying together or feasting over a meal together, or they were all in perfect harmony. Things were great. Sometimes we see those kind of things in like our Christmas cards. Yet, this is not the image that we're given in the gospel. And as we look in the rest of the gospels, things weren't peachy at all. The story we get today is one of great distress and anxiety. For just a moment, now imagine your son or daughter, if you were a parent, was missing even for an hour or two. Imagine if you went to pick them up and they say, like after school, and they just weren't there. Panicsville, why aren't they there? Phone calls and next. Imagine the feelings of not knowing where your loved one should be and not being able to find out for a while. I was just looking into the news this morning, and there are two people that have gone missing. One, they have found her, and it says she's no longer with us. The other one has been found and is safe. Now imagine the families in both of these occasions. One's rejoicing and the other one is anything but rejoicing. In Jesus' case, though, he was not lost. This is something that the family, the Holy Family, had to learn from Jesus. He was in one of the busiest cities in the world, and he wasn't lost. Where would he go? Mary and Joseph find him after searching for him for 3 days. 3 days. I had a youth minister in a previous parish. Her brother went missing. I was just beside myself. Both young adults. They eventually found him, but it was months before they found him. In his case, he just ran away and tried to start a new life. Now imagine the pain that this family has. It wasn't that he was in any trouble. He just decided, I want out of my marriage and my family, and just bolted. I remember being a child in Medford going through the Thunderbird Market and getting fixated on a few things like the candy aisle and the little toy aisle. And then I look around and Mom was gone. It's the other way around in my family. I'm the 9th of 9. So I start looking. Have you ever done that? Like you're walking down the edges of the aisles. Whoosh, walk, walk, walk. Whoosh, walk, walk, walk. Whoosh, and then there she is. And I retrieve myself back to her care. But imagine the guilt that one would feel as a parent if one of your children has been missing. And imagine now the feeling of them being found. For those of us who have children, imagine a pet. That would be me. A few years back, prior to my coming here, that's like now 15 years since today, my dog Gracie, who, as I came to know, was an escape artist, escaped from the house. She learned how to open the screen door. That's pretty smart, don't you think? And then another time, I had the dog at work, and first opportunity of a door open, boom, gone. I didn't even know it for an hour. What a horrible owner. Making it worse, I decided, okay, everybody, this is to the staff, your job now is to be a dog catcher. I'm paying you to go catch my dog. Get in your cars, let's go. So we went all over the place. Turned out, somebody who had been to our bazaar that was not part of our parish, we had a church bazaar, happened to notice that I was with dog at the bazaar, roaming around. And the dog was in their front yard, and she goes, this reminds me of that minister guy at the church we were at. And so while we were running around, they finally called the church. That's just a dog. It's not a person. So I can't even imagine. I was beside myself. I can't imagine what it's like for that to happen to a parent. Clearly, the responsibility given to parents is huge. And we need to support them in every chance we can get. So if you were to really look at the story of the Holy Family, you'll see that they were rife with struggles. Right off the bat, as soon as Jesus is born, they have to flee to Egypt because it's not like they just want to have a better life. They actually want to live. Herod is after Jesus, wants to kill him. Now imagine that. Because we think we got it bad. Imagine that you're in a country where the leader of that country wants your child dead. What else are you going to do? Run, flee. And then trying to imagine then returning many years later to try to restart. So calling the Holy Family, specifically Mary and Joseph, the Holy Family, doesn't make them super parents. They don't like superpowers. They just were holy. And of course, yes, their son thought himself as God. Now, sometimes our sons and daughters think that themselves, but in this case, right, it's the real case. It's the real deal. He is God incarnate. But it's interesting because this is the mystery of the incarnation, that he grew and learned wisdom. So mysteriously, he was taught. That's disturbing. God allowed himself to become bound by a human form and not knowing everything. And yet he could know everything. This is mind-boggling, and I don't attempt to explain it. But it is in these situations, as we read the scriptures, that we can find hope for our family situations. How many of us can say our families are perfect? None of us can. Even if you're an only child, and that's a small family, you still have issues, or have had issues. See, their mark of holiness was not a lack of problems in their life or stress. Rather, it was how they dealt with those problems, how they lived through them. All said, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph loved each other. Mary had to learn something from Jesus in this case. When she asks why he left them, like, why did he do such a deed, right? She did not know. And Jesus reminds Mary that family is not the hub identity of him. While he is obviously pro-family, he's all about his Father's business. That's why he came. Imagine the first piercing of Mary's heart. We think of the sorrowful mysteries, but the first piercing might be actually feeling somewhat rejected because Jesus is saying, no, Mary, no, Mom, my Father first, not even you. That's tough on any mom, especially as a child grows into a teen, starts to separate themselves, and eventually they go off to college. Parents, you know this, how hard it is to let your son or daughter go to college or go off to some other location, maybe the military or a job. They're no longer home, and you may be empty nesters, who knows. But just to let them go, your baby. Mary would continue to learn about Jesus through the course of her life. And Jesus learned from Mary and Joseph. We would do well to learn from their lead. What does it mean to be part of a holy family? What can we do to make our families more holy? How might we seek out reconciliation where there is brokenness? See, in family structures, inevitably, certain roles begin to appear. Some are the clown, others may be a scapegoat, Another is the troublemaker, and another maybe a black sheep, and there's probably other roles. And the larger the family, the more likelihood those roles start to repeat ourselves. Can you imagine a family with 2 clowns? Or 2 troublemakers? That's tough. Imagine now getting together on the holidays, what that would look like. But here's the thing, we all have some roles in our families, and if we get together, do we not just fall right back into them? I mean, no matter how long we've been away, we fall right back into them. But does it have to be that way? It is the case that commonly siblings will treat each other as they've always known them to be, regardless of the fact that they got married and have kids and have a life and job or whatever it might be. They have a priest. My sisters have finally stopped calling me Billy. That's good. See, our Christian faith tells us to be authentically who we are called to be. That is a better version of ourselves. See, Adam and Eve created perfect and holy in communion with God and nature and each other, and their sin broke that, and we inherit that. And every time we sin, we mar the image of who we were called to be from the beginning. So instead of saying, well, I'm just human, like that's the way it is. No, that's the lowest common denominator, not the highest. Saying, well, I'm just fallible, what can I do? Well, that may be the case, but it is not an excuse to continue with it. Just because I'm aware of my problem does not mean I get to have now permission to continue. And as Christians, we're called to change. In fact, we should not be consorting with the values of our world, but renewed in our minds. St. Paul talks about this in Romans 12. So we're called, and that fact, if you go through any kind of marriage prep here, hopefully you will learn then that the role of husband and wife is to help each other get to heaven, to woo them, to love them, to sometimes challenge them, to help them, to sacrifice for them, whatever it takes. And then that goes to our kids as well, the children. Same thing for them. Our goal is to help them get to heaven. And siblings, what is our role? The same thing. That's a little harder, I suppose, because often siblings are in competition. But here's the great thing. Everybody gets a trophy in heaven. I know it sounds weird, right? That's part of our strange ethos of our culture, but you get to heaven, and it's like, you get to heaven. I'm like, what could there be better? And all those broken things that we have in our family, the dysfunctions, don't exist. Things are repaired. Things are joy-filled. There's no sorrow, no pain, no sickness, no bickering. No, hey, that's my thing, not your thing. A funny thing in our family, our older sisters, and they may be listening to this so they know this, that they often will remember events in their childhood or high school, and they will mistake each other for different roles. Like, we went to this party and we did this thing. No, I did that. No, I did that. What? Were you both there? So as we get older, especially if you're younger, if you get older, our memories get kind of, let's say, fuzzy. So we've learned as the younger, we have like 2 generations. I'm the ninth of 9. And so we're learning from the older generation, like, don't count on your memory to be so clear, even though you think it is. You may have thought you were the one that did X, Y, Z, but actually, no. Our perceptions often fail us. And so do our memories. So what would it take on Christmas if we dared to forget our hurts that are in our families? What would it take if we just dared not to continue the struggle and bicker and seek out the firsts? Imagine that our siblings or whomever, and our in-laws, that makes it even more trickier, right? Our guests. Or if you're going to somebody's house, how might you be the best of guests to those you're with, even though you know where they came from, right? I know you. Right? Because that's the saying, like, I know you, and you will never be able to change. I'll never let you get out of whatever. I'll never forgive you for that. And what happens sometimes, that person does go on and change their hearts, or has already been changed. And we're the ones shackling ourselves because we don't let them actually be who they are in our minds. And we're missing out. One of my sisters went to college, came back after a year or so, and just fell into this role with me. And I'm like, whoa, stop, sis, stop. I'm not that kid anymore. I'm not a grade schooler anymore. I was junior high or freshman in high school. I'm not that person anymore. And she was like, oh, okay. And she changed. And that allowed me to change too. Because when one person doesn't change, we just sometimes fall right back into it. Those roles that we have. So there's cycles of craziness that sometimes we won't let stop. The Holy Family then gives us guidance. And we can pray to them and ask them to help us. So again, it's not that they didn't have problems. It's how they dealt with those problems. It's how they let go and let God take care of those problems. Which reminds me, of course, as we struggle through our stuff, as we have fears that we deal with in our families or beyond, we're called to let go. And we'll be so much better for it. But not just let go and say, I'm going to pretend it never happened. But let go and give it to someone else. Who? Jesus. Oh, Jesus, I surrender myself to you. Take care of everything. What a beautiful prayer, I think, for families. There's so much stuff and stress in families, and so much beauty and joy in families. We get a choice if we're going to be the problem or the solution, whether we're going to be loving or hating, whether we're going to be forgiving or seeking out revenge and holding our resentments. Go forth then today and resolve yourself to treat your family and yourself with love and kindness. And by doing so, you will be making your family more holy.
Thank you again for listening to this episode of the Father Bill's podcast. As we continue with Christmas season, isn't that funny? Just last night was Christmas Day, or I should say yesterday was Christmas Day, and then the day before that was Christmas Eve, which is tricky for priests because we have then a pretty serious schedule of masses. But nonetheless, we're now in the octave of Christmas, and right off the bat, we have the Holy Family, which is a great thing. I think it's wonderful, especially because a lot of us are with our families. I'm not myself because of work and stuff, and actually it's snowing as well, so I'm not able to really get out of the house much. I even had to cancel some masses at our missions, unfortunately, because of the snow. But many of you are at home and with your families, and this is a great opportunity, I hope, when you go to Mass, to be encouraged and challenged so that you can become more a holy family. Now, if you have any questions or comments, just go to my website, fatherbill.org, FRBILL.org, and there you can see what's going on my social media sites. You can send me an email directly from the webpage itself, and I'll do my best to get back to you. In the meantime, may God bless you, and have a great octave of Christmas. Bye-bye.